What is up, duelists? Arson Crofts here with your daily dose of Yu-Gi-Oh! GOAT format action, and it is a special one today as this is the first feature match of 2025, so Happy New Year to all of you viewers. Hope you guys are ready to make 2025 another amazing year for the GOAT format community. Today's feature match, we've got a blockbuster for you guys. Two of the highest rated players on the GOAT format Duelingbook ladder, ID Ono versus Pain123. Let's hop right into it. Looks like ID Ono is going to be going first. And they will lead out with a Pot of Greed, so already going up a card. Quite nice. Into set a back row normal summon Sangan pass. So on some sort of Sangan deck here, summoning Sangan instead of setting signifies that maybe they really, have something that they want to search off of the Sangan. Maybe a flip monster to pair with like a Tsukiyomi, maybe a Sinister Serpent to discard a Graceful Charity, would use as discard fodder for a Graceful Charity or a Raigeki Breaker or something like that. But definitely wanting to play around knock here with the normal summon Sangan, so Pain probably should note that ID Ono seems to want this card to get its effect to resolve. Pain Swallow up here, already down a card thanks to that Pot of Greed, is going to be a Graceful Charity, so Dueling Trinity here already. Pain is going to discard a Gravekeeper Spy and a Mirror Force, so two real cards to the Graceful. Interesting to throw that out without any discard fodder if, you're playing some sort of chaos deck, which these three cards kind of signify to me. And as I always say, first time in 2025, but you are playing Chaos Turbo until proven otherwise. So both players here definitely have not shown that they're not playing Chaos Turbo yet. So it's interesting to go ahead and Graceful off the rip without having any discard fodder if you are actually playing one of those chaos strategies, because generally you want to wait until you find like a Thunder Dragon or a Sinister Serpent or a Night Assailant, something like that. But Pain just needing, I guess maybe having a pretty bricked hand and just wanting to go for a little bit of hand filtration here, and the Mirror Force and the Spy are hitting the bin, so ID Ono knows that they don't have to worry about that very powerful trap for the rest of the game. Going to follow up with an Upstart Goblin here as well, so still digging for something here, maybe wanting to find a clean answer to the Sangan if they have one in the deck. They do find a Thunder Dragon here, alright. So must have drawn that off of the Upstart Goblin. Getting a Light Engrave here to turn on Chaos, so maybe that was the plan all along. We'll see if they can capitalize on that here as early as turn 1. They're just going to go set a monster pass, so opening Graceful Charity, Thunder Dragon, but in the wrong order, unfortunately. And their only play is just to set a monster pass, so not the strongest thing. ID Ono could definitely make a good amount of progress here if they have like a Nobleman of Crossout in hand, for example. But we'll see what they do. We're going to see Raigeki break here, okay. In draw phase, discarding a Night Assailant with nothing to target Engrave. So I guess we're really worried that it's a set Magician of Faith, looking to recur that Graceful Charity, I guess is the idea. And maybe lead out Graceful Charity if you have a Magician of Faith in hand is fine, even if you don't have any discard fodder, because you can just go ahead and recur that Graceful Charity later on, and with Graceful and other draw stuff, it is pretty likely that even if you don't have any discard fodder to start, you will draw into something good, and we saw that exactly happen with Pain drawing into that Thunder Dragon. So while the first Graceful might not be super valuable, the second one, off of potential Magician Faith, would be very strong, allowing them to cash in those two Thunder Dragons. So ID Ono potentially saying, I do not want that to happen, and they're going to potentially 2-for-1 themselves, discarding a Night Assailant with no flips Engrave to pop this set. Really worried about what it could be. It is just a Gravekeeper Spy, though. I think definitely more likely that it was Spy as well, because you saw one Spy get discarded, which sounds really weird, because it's like, okay, if a Spy is discarded, they have less Spies in the deck, so the set monster is less likely to be a Spy. But especially turn 1 when you're playing Chaos Turbo, Gravekeeper Spy is one of the highest value cards for you to resolve, so you're probably almost never discarding it off of a Graceful Charity, and having it stuck in Grave, unless you happen to have another one ready to play. So, in that case, I think very good chance that this set card was a Spy. ID Ono 2-for-1ing himself to deal with it, but preventing the Spy from resolving, and it does clear the way for their Sangan to start getting aggressive. And I guess the idea is, Pain is pretty bricked here. They fired off a Graceful turn 1 with no discard fodder. They then drew into a Thunder Dragon after that, so they have 2 dead Thunder Dragons in hand. They didn't set any back row. So you probably want to get aggressive here as much as possible while Pain is trying to desperately unbrick their hand. So I guess the idea is even if you are going down a card here to pop that Gravekeeper Spy, now you can start applying pressure and can hopefully make up for that loss of card advantage just in pure life point advantage. And if they have a nice aggressive monster here to follow this up, this will be even nicer. Let's see. Okay, it's just going to be set a monster, set a couple back row, get in with Sangan. Okay, so 1,000 points of damage. Ain't nothing. Sangan is a nice little clock here. And you do have... You're up pretty heavily in tempo here off of that Raigeki break play, and you get to set another threat here. So Pain definitely on the back foot here, but could be worse. Although we don't know what's in hand, and I presume they are pretty bricked here, so we'll see what the play is. They are going to go Heavy Storm here, try and clear out a couple back row. ID Ono has a Jar of Greed to chain, so it's just going to be a 1-for-1 trade. Hitting a Book of Moon, choosing not to chain it to the Sangan, totally makes sense if you were... You know, if you didn't summon the Sangan before, right, maybe you would Book a Moon here, because then you would know your opponent doesn't have like an Omen of Crossout or anything. But considering you went to the length to summon Sangan to play around Knock, you definitely don't want to book it here, because they definitely could have something like that in hand. Looks like Pain does not, though, so they're just going to fire off the Heavy Storm, get a 1-for-1, has no follow-up play, and you're just going to set a monster. And that's kind of an interesting play. The more I think about it, especially in these like potentially Chaos Turbo mirrors, the more you really want to use your back row removal with intention, right? Because throwing out a Heavy Storm, I guess the hope is you would just get a lucky 2-for-1, and Idiono would have just set 2 unchainables. But it's really, really likely when you're playing what looks like a turbo deck, I mean, you saw the Night Assailant already, that at least one of those sets is going to be chainable. So if you're just using your Heavy Storm for a potential 1-for-1 or even -1 trade if both were chainable, you really want to have something aggressive to follow it up so you can abuse the fact that your opponent has no back row. But if your only play is just set a monster, kind of feels like maybe you should be holding Heavy Storm there. Definitely let me know what you guys think in the comments, but the more I think about it, the more I like just like holding Heavy Storm, holding MST and stuff for aggressive pushes, instead of just like firing it out and then doing something passive like setting a monster, right? That's just my thought here. We'll see if it ends up working out for Pain, though. Idiono in a decent spot. We're going to get Flip Summon Gravekeeper Spy, so they get to resolve the first spy of the game. They're going to summon it out in defense position, which makes you think that they did not top deck an Omen of Crossout or anything like that. But nice little card advantage plus there. Ooh, they have a Graceful Charity as well. So kind of unfortunate sequencing, but I understand why they did it. You know, you don't want to graceful and accidentally draw into extra spies, so you don't have any targets for your spy flip summon, especially if you're only running 2. That's really risky. But it would have been really nice to know that you had like a Nobleman of Crossout in hand or something before going for the flip summon spy, so that you could potentially summon this in attack position. Because it would be really strong to go graceful into knock and then attack with all 3 of these monsters. But because they were worried about drawing into a spy off of the graceful and didn't, I guess, presumably does not have a knock in hand, so doesn't want to risk just going attack position and having it be a sitting duck, they're kind of forced to summon it in defense position here, and not get max value if they end up hitting a knock off of this graceful. Looks like they did have a Sinister Serpent, though, so pretty high value Graceful Charity nonetheless. Discarding a BLS as well is kind of crazy, but I guess you really need a Light Engrave, not having found a Thunder Dragon yet. So they're going to get to plus off of the Graceful Charity, which is nice. BLS hits the grave, turns on Chaos, and presumably if you're going to do this, you want to go ahead and summon a Chaos Sorcerer immediately is probably the plan. They're going to go Upstart first, though. Okay. And then summon out a Chaos Sorcerer, yep. And then show me the Nobleman to cross out? No, we're going to set a card. Good to do this if you think your opponent might be playing, Morphing Jar or something, right? Stork will go just run over it. Koichi, though, that'll cycle a card for Pain, and then they'll get to hit in for 2,200. Okay. So just running out the Sork there, it's kind of interesting. Like, you're in a good spot. How badly do you really want to... I mean, I can see doing this, right? Because... yes, I like being as aggressive as possible when your opponent seems to be pretty bricked, right? If their only plays this so far this game were set spy, mirror force with no discard, heavy storm with a set to Koichi and no other back row. like it seems like they don't have a lot going on. So I like being aggressive in that sense, but you had to discard a BLS just to do it. So if this game ends up going pretty long, they're definitely going to miss having that big boss monster in their deck. So Idiono making a bit of a gambit here, saying, okay, I think I can kill you before you unbrick your hand, and I'm just going to go maximum offense here and hope it works. In which case, summoning the spy in defense position is doesn't look super duper great because it looks like they probably would have gone for it anyway, even if they didn't hit knock. But maybe they didn't have the cards for Chaos Sorcerer until they had resolved that Graceful Charity. So let's see though. Going to be able to hit in for 22 at least. Drop Pain down to 5,800. So this is a pretty nice clock, regardless of the BLS being gone. And Pain is very much on the back foot now with a massive board for them to deal with. Tribe Infecting Virus would be insane in this position with so many spellcasters on ID on the other side of the board. So it's definitely something you might want to, or you might have to worry about here. We'll see if Pain has that. And then they're going to go ahead and set another monster as well. So just filling up their whole board with monsters, being as aggressive as possible. And we'll see if Pain can kind of resist this onslaught and drag this game out to the point where the lack of BLS is going to end up being an issue for Idiono. Otherwise, it might be tough for them to kind of, surmount this advantage with a hand that just seems to not be doing a whole lot. Had a couple draws, though. Draw for turn plus the Dekoichi, so just needs something like a Pot of Greed. A lot of good things. Any Chaos Monster would be pretty nice here as well. Tribe Infected Virus, like I said, would be bonkers. No Mana Crossout is a good start. Gonna banish that set. It is a Dekoichi of IDO Ono's own. Okay. So both players will not have the services of the train here for the rest of the game. Doesn't really matter for Chaos purposes. Both players are already having plenty of Darks Engrave. But it's one less flip monster for the calculus later on. Pain follow-up play is going to be a Snatch Steal, likely going to be on that Chaos Sorcerer. Where we got MST set from Idiono to pop that. Okay, so one answer to this board has been foiled. But now back row is clear for Pain to go for a play. If you have Chaos here, great time to drop it. No, they're just going to set a monster pass. 2 Thunder Dragons rotting in hand, no Chaos to play, still no back row. I guess is their hand just filled with flip monsters? You really need to resolve a Magician of Faith if that's the case, so you can graceful and unbrick yourself. We'll see if Idiono allows that to happen though. Still hasn't seen any knocks of their own, but they've gotten through a lot of their draw cards. So if they don't have a knock in hand as of yet, unlikely that they're just gonna top deck one probably, but it could happen. And let's see, Idiono draws for turn. Grab that Sinister here in standby phase, of course. Looks like they chose not to, which probably just a mistake. They found a Thunder Dragon for turn, so that is not a way to deal with this set, but it is just a little bit nice value. Gets a Light Engrave as well, potentially. And it gives you a way to get a Dark Engrave. If the last card in your hand is another Chaos Sorcerer, if you want to go for that. Because you can go like Tribute Sangan for Thunder Dragon, get a Dark Engrave, and then turn Chaos on once more. See what they choose to do, though. Definitely a nice aggressive board from them. They're going to go for that Tribute Sangan normal Tribute Summon Thunder Dragon play. Sangan will search up a Magician of Faith, which is really strong when you've got Pot, Graceful, Sinister going on. So I like that play. It's a little bit more aggressive as well. Upgrades your offense, and there's no back row to worry about, so Mirror Force is already gone, but there's no Torrential to worry about either. Let's see. Do we have another Chaos? No, we're just going to go straight to battle. So just wanting to get a little bit more offensive push here. Keeping the Spy in defense is a little bit interesting to me. Well, so I guess math-wise, if we assume they're just going to go Sork, kill a monster next turn, this is 3,800 a turn, which is a 2-turn clock. And then Spy doesn't actually increase the clock, so I guess keeping it in defense at this point makes sense, because it doesn't increase your clock at all. So just hedging a little bit defensively, I think makes sense. Sork is going to go run over a Sangan, so Pain here, unfortunately, probably a little bit slow at this point when such an offensive onslaught is coming at you. You would have wished that you could have gotten a nice Sangan search off before. They'll see what they can grab here. You probably go Magician of Faith, because that's probably your only way back in this game. They're going to grab a Sinister Serpent. All right. I guess maybe if you have Tribe, or if you're just hoping to top deck Tribe, that's the best case scenario. Regeki Break could maybe be nice if you have some more removal to follow it up. But you're going to drop down pretty low here thanks to this Spy and Thunder Dragon beating in. Yeah, they're all the way down to 3k. Idiono passing with lethal on board. Oh, I guess this actually isn't a 2-turn clock. Just these two now. So I feel like you should have attacked with a spy at some point just to put them down even lower. But maybe it's fine. Pain here, kind of last-ditch effort here. Idiono has lethal on board. They do find a back row, and they're probably setting that Sinister Serpent that they grabbed. Although that could be a smokescreen to maybe go for a Magician of Faith. Although if Idiono has any set monster removal, you probably just fire it out anyway to go and attack for game. Let's see, there's no Mirror Force to worry about, so you're not super duper scared of this back row if you're Idiono. Looking like they're going to take this one home off of this really, really aggressive push. But we'll see if Pain has any tricks up their sleeve. Yeah, we're going to send Spy to attack position. This is lethal if the Sork beats over the set. Main phase 1, battle phase, Sork attack the set. It is a Tsukuyomi. Okay, so we're going to set a monster to save lethal. Probably set the Thunder Dragon, which is fine, because then the Spies will only beat in for 24. Now, notably, right, if we hit with the Spy last turn, you would be at 18, and double Spy would be lethal here. So Idiono being a little bit more conservative, which is a little antithetical to what their strategy has been. It's like if you're going to go all in, summon Sork without plussing off of it, and just go beat face as much as possible, especially because Mirror Force isn't around, you might as well just attack with the Spy and increase your clock. And now this is giving Pain a chance to live another turn, because they can go Sook set the Thunder Dragon. Suddenly both your Spies are not lethal. And Pain might be bricked, but they're slowly but surely getting to a point where they can unbrick themselves. And if this game goes long, because Pain is the one with the BLS still in their deck, this could be a little bit tricky. Both Spies will get in here, though. Drop Pain all the way down to 600, so still not out of the woods at all yet, of course. We're going to end phase Jar of Greed out of Pain to try and draw something good. All right. No back row here, so potential, if you found some chaos or something, you're pretty safe to use it. Let's see, we're just going to go set a monster, set a couple back row pass. Likely that Sinister once more. They still have 2 Thunder Dragons stuck in hand as well that they have never been able to cash in, which feels really bad, but like I said before, Idiono correctly guessing that, or correctly noticing that Pain seemed to be bricked and went for this very aggressive posture this game. So let's see. Still lethal on board. If you beat over Sinister, attacking with any of your monsters, it's game. Do you play around Torrential here is kind of the question. You don't need the Thunder Dragon damage to win. There's no Mirror Force. So I say you just probably attack with these guys, and Pain is probably just going to go minus, trying to block your stuff. That seems like the play to me. But yeah, we're just going to go Sork attack the set. We're going to get Wind Blast out of Pain. Discarding one of those Thunder Dragons, so finally using it for something. Sork will get bounced to the top of the deck. It is live to just be played next turn, though, so that's really not the end of the world for Idiono. Also, notably, Idiono forgetting to grab Sinister every single turn in this game, so never actually getting the plus off the Graceful. Hasn't really mattered too much at this point, but definitely remember to grab your Serpents, guys. It's pretty good card if you use it, right? Sork will get bounced here, though. Spy is still lethal, though. And notably, that is a card advantage positive trade for Idiono anyway. Like I was saying, it's like, okay, you might have random spot removal to deal with my board, to deal with lethal this turn, but you're going to have to go negative to do it because Mirror Force is your only kind of card advantage plus option here, which you don't have anymore. So even if I don't kill you this turn, I'm going to be in a really good position to kill you next turn, and I'm at 9,000 life, so I really don't care about any OTKs or anything like that. So I like the plays here. Pain looks like they found the 3rd copy of Gravekeeper Spy, which is pretty nice. So, okay, weirdly keeping their Sinister Serpent in hand and not discarding a Thunder Dragon instead of the Serpent for the Wind Blast, I guess just to make Idiono still think that this set is Sinister Serpent? Which doesn't seem that worthwhile to me. I feel like you might as well just keep the Thunder Dragon in hand and use the Serpent for its intended purpose. So getting a little bit tricky here, probably for not too much gain, unless there's something I'm missing. But Idiono will at least be stalled out for a turn. Sorcerer on top of the deck for Idiono, of course, threatening to just get slammed down next turn, banish the Spy, and continue to threaten the life, though. But Pain will live to see another day. Okay, looks like we've got main phase 2, another Sork in hand anyway. So actually the Sork on top of the deck is going to be dead, but you don't really care if you're Idiono because you have a live Sork anyway. It's going to come in, banish that Spy. Pain will, once again, like I said, live to see another day. But going super duper minus every single turn just to stay alive without ever really threatening the opponent's life points, and things are looking very, very good for Idiono here. Can I get end phase Jar Greed here for Pain? Kind of interesting timing. It doesn't really matter, but maybe there's a world where you hold Jar of Greed here, depending on what your top deck is. So no real reason to use it here. You could always just use it in your main phase or something. There's no back row to play around or anything. Like I said, pretty minute detail. And Pain's just going to concede there. Still has lethal on board. Yeah, and they just got grinded down super fast there. Never really able to unbrick their hand, unfortunately. And Idiono, recognizing that their opponent was bricked, going maximum offense, well, close to maximum offense. They could have closed this out earlier by attacking in with this remaining Spy at some point, but still going very aggressive very early in the game because they noticed that Pain was bricked. They know that they didn't have Mirror Force to play around, and that's actually an interesting point. If you're Pain and your hand is super bricked, there is probably value in not discarding the Mirror Force, because then it makes it a little bit harder if Mirror Force is not known about from Idiono to go super aggressive, right? It's really hard, and of course you have to, Idiono made the right play in realizing that they had this opportunity to get really aggressive, but by going graceful, discard Mirror Force Spy, you're basically saying, I'm bricked, and I don't have Mirror Force to protect me from an aggressive push, so in a scenario that you already want to be aggressive, I can't stop you from doing it, even in the best case scenario. And Idiono just taking that all the way to the bank and taking down game 1 here, really well played. Pain will be able to go first here in game 2. We'll see if they have any spicy side deck tech, but really nicely played from Idiono there for the most part. And Pain will be on the back foot for the rest of this match now. Leading out here in game 2, though, opens a Thunder Dragon. We'll see if they have an easier time cashing them in this game than they did the last, just rotting in hand the entire game, which can definitely happen in these Chaos decks sometimes. They're going to go normal summon Zombira, which is not a card that you always see cited in Turbo Mirrors, but definitely an option. It can wall out like expected Kaikus if Idiono might have those in the side deck that they're bringing in, which is pretty common. It also can beat over single Spies, which can be useful to push in some more damage and prevent them from like plussing off of their Spies. Can only do it once, though, of course, unless you have, like, Souk to reset it. But still not terrible. And yeah, it is also just a very safe monster to lead out here. Even with no back row, although it does just die to Tsukiyomi. But not a bad card by any stretch of the imagination. Idiono has a Thunder Dragon of their own here, so we got dueling Thunder Dragons. Both players having those two boys in hand. And they have, but this time Idiono has the Graceful Charity to cash them in immediately, so huge advantage to Idiono right off the bat here with the classic Thunder Dragon plus Graceful Charity combo. Going up a full card, getting to see a lot of stuff. They're going to discard Spy and Thunder Dragon to go ahead and get a Dark Engrave to summon the Chaos Sorcerer that they had in hand. Immediately plussing again. Sork being able to, you probably banish the Zombira here. No point in attacking it, getting a Dark Engrave for Pain, and potentially giving them, their own chaos. 200 damage is definitely not worth it. Now, unfortunately, you do have to summon the Sork into attack position in case Pain is running multiple copies of Zombira. Otherwise, Zombira can just beat over the defense position Sork. But it does leave Pain the option to, like, crash into the Sork with, like, a Sangan or something to get their Dark Engrave. But that's less likely than just getting killed by a Zombira at this point. So, I think you summon Sork in attack and banish the Zombira anyway. Makes sense to me. And now you're just already up a million cards. So really strong start here for Idiono. And we're going to get normal summon Sangan here to even apply pressure in the same turn. Wow, so really solid stuff. Going to get in for 1,000. Pain drops to 7k. Nice clock here. Really aggressive board. And just going to pass. No back row, but still really solid. TD Bliss Graceful. Into Sork. Into Sangan to pressure the life points. And Pain super on the back foot here, but definitely not out for the count just yet. Let's see what the play is. Just going to set a back row pass. Okay. So Mirror Force is probably not something you care too much about here if you're Idiono. Sangan doesn't care about it. Chaos Sorcerer, you already plussed off it, so if they have Mirror Force, it's like kind of okay. You're still up in cards and in a position to grind them out well. You could turn Sork to defense position and say, okay, Mirror Force is maybe more likely than a second Zambira, and it turns out that crash play. So we'll see what Idiono chooses to do. I can see just not playing around Mirror Force, or I could see turning Sork to defense. Both I think are fine, depending on what else is in your hand and how aggressive the rest of what you got going on is. I think if you have like another beater, like if you have like Haiku or something, you definitely want to play around Mirror Force. But let's see. Heavy Storm makes it not even matter. We'll see if Pain has a chainable. It's just a bluff set Nobleman of Crossout. Wow, so is Pain just super bricked here? 2 games in a row? That really would suck for them if that is the case. But Heavy's going to pop that knock. Now ID knows that there's no, or one of the 2 Noblemans in the whole deck is gone, so they can set some stuff a little bit more safely. Back row is clear, no Mirror Force to play around this turn, so they can get super aggressive if they want. They're just going to go, yeah, beat in for 3,300, set a monster, which is safer because that knock is gone, and have a back row to protect all of this. Really, really solid start here from Idiono, and depending on what the set monster is, this could just be lethal already next turn if Pain doesn't have a way to wall some stuff out here. Heavy Storm of their own here. We'll see if they have a follow-up. Looks like Idiono might have disconnected. Nope, they are back. Cool. So Heavy hitting an MST, totally fine. Back row is clear for Pain to do something. We'll see if they, don't have Chaos live right now, but Crash Play is available. We're going to get Nobleman of Crossout number 2, so I guess that makes sense. If you're comfortable bluff setting knock this early in the game, when your opponent still has like Heavy and MST and Breaker in their deck, potentially, you're probably only doing that if you have a second copy of knock, so potentially baiting ID into setting a real set here. But we'll see what it hits. It's going to hit a Gravekeeper Spy. Okay, so both players will have to banish the rest of the spies from their deck. I think that's totally fine. Probably a bigger deal for Pain. At this point, ID, you're probably fine with the spies getting banished from your deck because it'll thin it a little bit. And Pain really is the one who needs some defensive mojo here. So getting the spies banished from your deck might be a little bit bad. Yeah, and every copy of Pain spies hitting the banish zone here. So now ID knows that they just don't have to play around it at all the rest of the game. ID's going to banish their final remaining copy as well. And then Pain just going to set a back row once more. Once again, if you're Idiono, Mirror Force is kind of a whatever at this point. Still no monsters out of Pain as well. They just had that turn 1 Zambira and hasn't had anything since then. So here you go. ID, what's the play? We're going to get Tribute Summon. Oh, yeah, I forgot. So ID actually kept another copy of Thunder Dragon in hand because they discarded the Spy off of the Graceful in order to get a Dark Engrave for the Sork. So now we're going to get Tribute Sangan for Thunder Dragon saying, I'm not going to play around Torrential. It's a little bit interesting. But maybe if you have BLS in hand, you don't care about Torrential. We'll see if Pain has it. And then Sangan Effect can go ahead and grab a Night Assailant, which is an interesting choice with no Flips Engrave. So I wonder what the purpose of that is. Kind of interesting. Unless you're going for a really long con, Faithful grab Graceful Charity play into Graceful discard Night Assailant, which maybe is the play, but Night Assailant right now doesn't seem like the strongest card that you could have snagged. Let's see, though. Looks like Pain has no Torrential Tribute. Now Mirror Force is actually real, though, because the Sangan isn't here to protect it. But Tribute Summon for Thunder Dragon play, of course, does get you lethal on board this turn. So perhaps saying, odds are you didn't top deck Torrential Tribute or Mirror Force. Oftentimes those are even sided out or not even main decked nowadays in Chaos Turbo. And you probably don't even side them in a lot of the time in the Turbo Mirror. So saying, a lot of the time here, you're just not going to have either of those cards. I'm just going to go hit for lethal here. If you have it, I'm still in a good spot because you're still super low on life. And you still have 2 Dead Thunder Dragons in hand. So I like the aggressive play here. We'll see if Pain has the Mirror Force, though. Or is it just going to be GG? And it's just going to be Set Ring, which does not prevent the damage. So Idiono finding exactly, or very close to exactly lethal here this turn, even playing around potential Ring of Destruction. And that's going to be a really well played 2-0 here for ID Ono in a good old Chaos Turbo Mirror. Pretty nicely played. Game 1, like I said before, recognizing really early that Pain was super bricked in their hand. The Mirror Force getting discarded off of the Graceful Charity turn 1 meant ID did not have to play around it at all the entire game and just went balls to the wall, aggro, and killed Pain before they could really mount any sort of defense. Game 2 here, pretty similar. It looks like Pain got a little bit bricked. ID Ono had a nice, really solid opening here with TD into Graceful, into Sork plus Sangan, and then just was able to apply pressure turn after turn. Pain couldn't mount a defense, and ID took down Game 2 as well in a very similar fashion. So, once again, Happy New Year to all of your listeners. What better way to start out a new year of GOAT format Yu-Gi-Oh! Than with a classic Chaos Turbo Mirror? Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if there's anything you would like to see from me or this channel in the new year. But otherwise, I will catch you all next time.